Hi guys, welcome to episode 7 of the SWR Darts Coaching Podcast with me, Sean, a JDC Level 1 qualified darts coach. In this episode, it's going to be a little bit all over the shop, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to do my Bridlington British Open recap, talking about my experiences of attending the British Open last weekend. I'm also going to go over some little coaching points, just from some coaching sessions that I've done this week with people, and I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments on this podcast or across our social media platforms, and then just my general feeling of a question that's been put on Twitter by another coach and what I feel they've put on and what my thoughts are. So let's get into it. Bridlington recap. So last weekend was the British Open. This will obviously be going out on Monday, so it was the weekend just gone back. What a fantastic weekend once again with the darting community up in Bridlington. Really enjoyed myself. It was great to meet so many people from Twitter that follow me. It was just a wonderful weekend. Probably so much so, apart from the darts, I didn't have the game I was hoping for. I'm going to talk about my game in just a few minutes. But once again, the darting community is fantastic up that area in Yorkshire. Most of the pubs I went into got a game on the board. Saturday evening, the night before the event, we were in the pub. I can't remember the name of it. The Beaconsfield Arms. That was the name of the pub, the Beaconsfield. Fantastic hospitality from them. They had a dartboard in there in the corner. And we had some really good games in there. Winner stays on style games, 501. Thank you to the two gentlemen who were from Doncaster, I think. I apologise if I got that wrong. Who were very kind to let me have a few games with them. And then some of the people that I know from the local area, they came in just off the off chance. Ended up having a few legs with them as well. And again on the Friday, I went to a few pubs on the Friday, got a few games in some different pubs. There was a gentleman in the George, which I think he was a little bit, why is this you've just started throwing on the dartboard? But I just said to him, am I alright, just have a chuck? He's like, yeah. So we just had a chuck. I went through some practice games in my head. And then after about half an hour, he just turned around to me and went, well, we might as well just have a game, hadn't we? I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So we just played, 501 and just had a few legs against each other. And threw really well. Comfortable with my game. I was happy with the way everything was going. Turned up on the Sunday, the British Open, got there early as normal, registered, went for a walk around the boards. And I'll be honest with you, strangely enough, I didn't really feel overly comfortable, which isn't like me. But there was a couple of, I just felt they were very short. Some of the throws were very short. Now I know for a fact they weren't, obviously, but it felt short to me. And at one point I actually felt that if I threw towards tops, I was going to hit the metal frame and the dart was going to go over the top of the board. It was a really weird feeling, to be honest. And a feeling that I've not had before when I've been at an hockey or at an event like that. So it took me a little bit of time just to get comfortable. Moved around various different boards, sort of played a game in my head. So if I went on board 3, I had to go then to board 6 to then find board 12 to then find board 24. And then after that, I would just go find another board at random and sort of, half the numbers and double the numbers. Just so I moved around different boards, different throws, and it is that case. I was on one board and Leighton Bennett came onto the board I was practicing on. Lovely lad, first time I've ever met him. Said hello back. We had a good little interaction. Just watching him throw his darts as well, fantastic up close, watching him in his style, very, very relaxed, very rhythmical I felt as well. And then I moved around the other boards. I went over to the women's boards. I think it was a shame that the women's PDC event was on the same weekend. I think that made the numbers down a little bit, but it was still strong. The numbers were some really fantastic players there. Had a brief sort of, hello and what have you with Dieter Hedman. So yeah, it really good, you know, and obviously meeting some of the Twitter community. I wish now I'd gone over and spoke to Sam Squire, who's another fellow JDC darts coach. Didn't really go over and chat with him, which I had done now. But I'm sure, no doubt, me and Sam will cross paths at some point. But then, obviously, you know, as is everything, 9 till 10 is your registration. I believe some players registered after 10 o'clock. Again, I don't know how that happens, but that's only what I've heard. And I think we ended up starting at around the 11 o'clock mark, which is, you know, isn't too bad. The women's draw came out first before the men's draw. The men's draw eventually come through. But what I remember from last year, when I used Dart Connect last year at the British Open, it wasn't the same this time round. So I don't know if it changed the way it works, but it was different this time round. I didn't get the notification of telling me that, you know, what board I've been drawn on or anything. But you can go into the Dart Connect TV app and search through there. And I found out that I was on board 28, and I was playing a gentleman, Mark McKinnon, on board 28, and we were 5th on that board, I think it was, if my memory serves me right now. So I did my normal routine, you know, I did a TikTok live upstairs just to, you know, relax myself. I then went down and got myself a beer, sat back upstairs in the gallery area, overlooking the board, watching some of the games. And when I knew the game before me was on, I went downstairs to sort of prepare myself, get myself close to the board so I was ready to go. Felt really comfortable. As I say, as I was walking up to the hockey, my opponent registered on the board first, then I registered, then our marker turned up, so yeah, smooth as anything, fantastic to see how you want it to be. And then, you know, we threw for the bull, I won the bull, which I was happy about. But then it all just sort of didn't go for me from there. So leg one, I kicked in with a 41, which, you know, it's a score at least. It's not, yeah, they're all on the board. But I didn't really get going there in leg one. So 41, he followed it with 45. I then hit a 25. He then hit a 140. That was the highest score of that first leg. In the end, he took out double 5. After about 20 odd darts, there we are, so 27 darts leg, so not the best. Second leg, I kicked him with a 23, really poor. I just couldn't get comfortable at that point. I came back, had a word with myself, shall we say, and felt I had a better leg in the second leg, but he pinged in a ton and a 137 back to back. I didn't really apply the pressure when I hit a 81 followed by a ton. I hit a 26, but I ended up, he was on, what was he on? I can't remember what he was on now. I think he wanted, 46, yeah, I've got it here now. He wanted 46, I wanted 170, and I hit 124. I hit treble 20, single 4. And when I say single 4, I don't mean to say I was close to the outer ball. I mean I hit single 4. It was an atrocious attempt at the ball. But yeah, he then came up, took out 46 and 23 darts. Next leg was my most comfortable leg, and I felt I was ahead in this one. 60s and 80s dominated for me. I left myself 72. I hit single 18. I went for double-double, so I hit single 18. I threw my next dart and it was a bit high and I thought it was in the double. So I hesitated, looked, the marker didn't even budge, so I knew it wasn't, higher than that. So it was another single 18. I then stepped back, through, and I was out of the board. He wanted 32 and he took it out in 2 darts. And then in the last leg, same sort of scenario again. Really strong leg for myself, I felt, in the last leg. Mark again threw really well, but you know, it came down to it. I had 108 left. I scored 75 to leave myself 33. He wanted 76, and he took it out in 3 darts. 16-20 to top. So yeah, lost 4-0. Disappointed with myself. Felt that, the first leg was really a rough leg for me. Didn't settle into it. Second, third and fourth leg felt comfortable. Like I say, missed darts for doubles to take a leg. But overall, comfortable. A bit. Did I enjoy the experience? Really, yes. But once again, disappointed that I've gone to Bridlington and I've not come home with a leg. That was my aim this year, to at least get a leg on the board. But sometimes it's just not gonna work that way. That was the situation there. So that was that. Pros of the event. Thought it ran okay. There was a few situations where players were called to boards. They didn't come. They weren't there straight away to mark. I'd seen a couple of them as well. A couple of situations where players didn't arrive in time for games. Again, I felt the system could have been a little bit better. I got my notification to go to my board when I was at my board. So I don't know if there was a problem with the notificational system or what have you. I don't know. But again, the venue, can't fault the Spa. It's a wonderful venue. Bit strange that certain areas you couldn't go in. There was only one way to go upstairs and one way down. But bar service was okay. It was a bit slow when I first arrived there. That was because the person that was at the front of the queue was buying drinks for everyone, and then just kept turning around and going, go ask Steve if he wants one. I'll go ask him. And I'm like, I think we were all at that point going, come on. But that seemed to be okay. My cons of the event was the fact that I can be told I'm wrong, but once this event started, I believe there was only 2 practice boards, and they were in a side room at the back, and there were just 2 boards on dart stands with a bit of tape on the floor for your hockey. Now, for an event like that with 400 competitors, I would have expected a few more practice boards to be dotted around the place. So that for me was a big negative and a big upset that there's no really practice area. Sure, there was a reason for that. Logistics, I don't know, but I do think that it would be better if there was more practice area. I certainly would have enjoyed a little bit more of a practice. I did go in that room enjoying the snakes. But I do think there should be another designated practice area potentially. But they utilised every bit of space in that room. You couldn't walk down the gangways in some instances. It was really tight. And another negative, I suppose, that I just thought about was there was no tables behind your hockey to put your drink or your darts case on. And people were finding that they had to put their drinks or their coats or whatever they got on the floor. I thought that was a little bit, upsetting. Upsetting is not the right word. Not professional enough. Let's get some tables where you can put your stuff on. But apart from that, well-run events. I watched the finals in the evening. I didn't stay around after the game. I went out and went and got some dinner. Went and had a chuck in another pub, and then did a TikTok live. Yes, and I watched the finals, and Luke Littler is just a phenomenal player. He won the British Classic and the British Open. That young man is just a phenomenal player, and he will light up the PDC events next year, because I believe he's got his tour card. So he's going to light up the events. But for a Brid recap, lost 4-0 in the first round, 300 miles, quite a lot of money spent, and didn't win a single leg. So must try harder next year. Okay, next part of this podcast, I'm just going to touch on a couple of coaching points that I've done this week. So obviously straight back from Bridlington, had a couple of days rest, and then I've been back in. I've done a coaching session today as I record this podcast. I've done a coaching session this morning. I did a coaching session 2 days ago as well with a young player. And players constantly coming in. The first question I ask, I think I mentioned this on another podcast, was that they always say I want to be more consistent. We're all after consistency from our game. That's a given. But how do we get to that consistency level in our game? And I'll be honest, I do keep saying it, and I do think it's all about, making sure that you're structured with practice. You go up there and you practice when you should be practicing. So, i.e., if you're tired, don't go up and practice. If you haven't had, if you haven't had anything to eat, or you're not hydrated well, don't go up and practice. Make sure you're really hydrated. You've had maybe your dinner or your tea before you go and practice. Just these little things that can help your body more than anything, but help your mind. One thing I've noticed with the gentleman I coached today, really good strong stance. Again, I'm seeing this more and more in players that are coming to me with coaching. Their stance is getting really strong, but their elbows are dropping a lot. I think a lot of players are sort of dropping their elbow a little bit, but we're getting the stance right. And I think that's a big key of it. You watch a lot of the videos on YouTube and away from YouTube. We all talk about that. Darts coaches or darts people who are coaches will talk about making sure we got that solid stance. And I'm noticing that in a lot of players that are coming to me at the moment for coaching. They are, they've got that sort of solid stance. So, straight away, if you're looking for darts coaching, and you think you've got a solid stance already, you're probably already partway there. It's then all about the tweaks and working on maybe equipment or just the release point of the dart, the way you're approaching the hockey, and then obviously practicing there and after. Like I said, not done a lot of coaching this week, but the most coaching points have been the fact that I've noticed that people are dropping their elbows a little bit too much, but solid stances, we're getting a lot of solid stances in at the moment, which is really nice to see. And again, it's something that when we're at the academy on a Monday night, we promote that to the kids at the academy, that we want a good solid stance. A good solid stance starts our game of darts. If you can get that in place, then you're off to a good start. Next part of the podcast I just want to touch on. Now, this is a fellow coach on Twitter that's posted this. So this is Brian Ivey. For those who might not know Brian's a qualified JDC coach as myself. He's been coaching for many a year with his Darts Academy down in Paynton, I think it is. I apologise, Brian, if I've got that wrong. But it was a tweet that he put out, which just raised my eyebrow a little bit, and we've not had many comments put on. But again, I'd like you to go and comment on this, and also comment on below on the podcast. Let me know your thoughts. But he's put darts coaching, fact or myth? Can you really coach someone in how to play darts? Football, golf, snooker, and cricket, and most other sports you can. So why not darts? And I think it's a great point. I was, again, talking to a couple of people up in Brid. I got my new darts shirt on, so I got SWR darts coaching on my shirt. And a gentleman approached me on the Sunday afternoon, so this was after the darts, and went, "Do you coach darts?" I went, yeah, I do. I said, I coach darts to kids, adults, etc. He went, "Really?" I went, yeah. I said, I can, I'll teach you play tiddlywinks if you want. I can teach someone to play dominoes, 5s and 3s dominoes. I can coach them to play that. And I think Brian's put a really good point across here, fact or myth. And I think it is a fact that we can coach darts. I think we need to open up people's minds to the coaching of darts. People will go, I've had this comment made to me many a time, and I'm going to touch base with Brian and probably get him on a podcast, one of my podcasts, if he's up for it. But I've had it in the past where someone has gone, "Oh, you just throw 3 darts. What can you coach there?" Well, let's take it to a footballing level then. So, football, you're just kicking a ball about and you've got to kick it in the back of the net. Yep, okay. But how do we go about running around with the ball? Technique with the ball. So, let's go to darts. We need technique in the way we throw the darts. So, we can coach technique. We can coach technique in football. We can coach technique in darts. Golf. I'm not a golfer. I'll stipulate that now. I'm not a golfer. But golf, it's all about the swing. So it's all about your swing of your club. Technique. So again, go to a golf coach. He'll help you with your swing, help you with your technique. Take you to darts. We help you with your backswing, if pulling the dart back before you throw it. We're working on technique. Snooker. Again, I'm not a snooker player, but I have been to a snooker coach before. because I do enjoy watching snooker. I just can't play it. I can't work the angles out. But again, it's technique of how you get down and you play your shot. Again, darts, it's about technique of how you throw the dart. So, darts coaching, fact or myth? Yeah, it's a massive fact. And I think we've got to get more people now engaging and coming to speak to darts coaches for us to help them with their technique. Stance is big, as I've always touched on in this podcast. Stance is big, but so is the technique of how you throw the dart. We've got to put the building blocks together. So your building blocks are the way you approach the hockey, what you are doing when you're at the hockey, so your stance, and the technique of how you throw the dart. You've got to build them 3 building blocks. And I think once you've built them 3 building blocks together, you create your dart throw. I'm a massive believer, and I've said this in other podcasts, that your dart throw is your dart throw. You can work with what you've got. I don't see the value in me telling you how to change your throw, to make you throw a different way. But to offer subtle tweaks in your current throw that'll help your game. I think that's what it's about more than me saying to you, this is how I want you to throw. So again, what are you doing when you're at the back of the hockey? What's your stance like when you're there? Are you solid? Are you rigid? Or are you moving? We don't want movement, so we want to be as solid as we can. And then what's your technique like with your throw? Are you following through with your arm? Are you stabbing the dart? Are you raising your elbow up? Are you dropping your shoulder, or are you pushing through from your shoulder? These are all things that us as coaches we pick up on, I pick up on anyway. And as I say, I'm hoping to get. I might speak to Brian, see if he's interested in coming on another one of my podcasts, as well as other coaches, and just get perspective of them of what they look for in darts coaching. But for people that are out there that are now, you're still listening to this podcast, genuinely, look into darts coaching. If you're serious about your game, or you just want some offer and guidance on your game, have a look at it. I can't speak for everyone's pricing on darts coaching. I won't talk about what my pricing is. If you want to know how much I charge for darts coaching, visit my website, swrdartscoaching.co.uk. But we all charge a little bit differently. But that's probably because we all coach a little bit differently as well. I used to do a lot of football. I know some football coaches, I know some brilliant football coaches. And the pricing structure in the football world for coaching, for a one-to-one, for a 40-minute session or an hour session, is very different. But again, it's all about who the coach is. So, would someone go to a football coach that has played in the Premier League? Yeah, they probably will. Will someone go to a football coach who's never played in the higher echelons of the game? You may not do that. But then let's flip it. You've got a football coach who's never played in the higher echelons, who's got qualifications in football coaching. You've got a Premier League footballer who's got no qualifications but has played in the Prem. They're still coaching. They're still coaches. And this is why I bring back to darts quite a lot. A person at Bridlington asked me the question, what have you done in darts? And I've been asked this many a time. I've not done anything in darts. I've won a local singles league at Merits. But I've never played in the PDC, I never played in the BDO, I've never played in the World Championship, I've never won any major tournaments. But I've studied the game, I love the game. I'm a level 1 qualified JDC darts coach. What that enables me to do is help kids get into darts. But I take that, and I take my experience of my coaching in the game, and I just apply it to the adults. So, would you come to me, or would you, if let's say, argument's sake, Adrian Lewis decides to start doing darts coaching, and he's got no qualifications, would you go to Adrian Lewis, who's a former world champion in darts, or would you come to me because I've got qualifications? Let's be fair, you probably would pick Adrian Lewis. But we're probably coached the same way and in the same style. Yet, could he then ask more money than I'm charging because he's a world champion? Yeah. That's up to you then to make that decision of where you want to go. But give darts coaching a chance is what I'll say to everyone. So, it'll be interesting to follow the comments on Brian's post on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days. And I'll be interested to see some of the comments that come on there. I'm going to add my own comment on there as well. But I will ask Brian if he's interested in us doing a little chat where we can talk coach to coach and get his way of his coaching and in his ideology, and his methods of coaching. So I think that's something that we'll look to do in a future episode. So many thanks if you're still here. Really appreciate you listening to this episode. Again, a little bit of a ramble of myself talking about Bridlington and obviously the coaching points that I've been working with this week. So episode 7, like I say, I'm hoping we'll get episode 8 out in a couple of weeks' time. I've got a bit of a packed diary over the next week or two. Plenty of spaces available in October for people if you are looking for darts coaching. As I say, head over to the website swrdartscoaching.co.uk. You can book in there your darts coaching session with me. Loads of available dates through October. We do afternoon sessions. We are going to be able to offer some daytime sessions, and obviously I offer Saturdays and Sundays where available as well. Be sure to follow me across the socials. We're on Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram. Drop us a like. Every week I try and post out practice routines and practice advice. Hopefully you'll enjoy them. And if you're listening here on Spotify, please just click the follow and subscribe button here on Spotify. And share it with your darting community. Share it with your friends. If you think I'll benefit, what my rambles will benefit them in their game, please share them. The more players we can help, that's what we're here for. So thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your darts, stay safe at the hockey, and I'll speak to you in the next one.